This conference will now be recorded.
And over to you, Michelle.
Good afternoon, evening, day, wherever everyone's coming from. My name is Michelle Davis. I'm actually a senior manager of solution architects at Red Hat. Um, Very interesting background how I got where I am. I am not per se a Linux admin, which as many people who think when they say you work for Red Hat, I am technical, I am an engineer, but I came up the middleware ranks. I am in the JBoss portfolio that now manages the Linux admins, the JBoss, and the cloud infrastructure folks. So it's been an interesting experience, and I tell you how I got here. Jersey girl, went to school as most went to. I went to undergrad to study computer science. I was actually went to Drexel University, studied computer science there, and realized that was real male dominated. Um, but that was okay. That was okay. Love the challenge. Love being around the males. And as you're supposed to during my time frame, you go work at one of the big companies, and you sit there and you park for life. So that's what I thought I was going to do. So I went to work for IBM, and lo and behold, the company that never lays off, the place you park for life, started laying off, and it wasn't the place you wanted to be for life. Um, so I did a stint there and then decided I was going to go work for small companies as a programmer, as a consultant. And somehow or another, I got into a software company that was selling distributed component, distributing computing software models. And I love programming, C++, Java, and it was kind of intriguing how we were cross pollinating these two languages on two different platforms, Windows and Linux, and making them work. And it's nothing like trying to make the computer do what you want it to do. So if you all are anything like me, you're in this space because I told the computer to do something and it didn't do it, so I might not be able to change humans, but I can make this computer do it. So programming was my way of making something do what I want it to do at all times. And it been I came up through the same rank software company doing core but distributed computing. And I was in services and I was a consulting. And then I went to a trainer. And then I found this spot I really liked, which was halfway between an engineer and a salesperson. And it's the sales engineering role. And I have been in sales engineering since discovering that role because I have a foot in the door here. And just when I think I'm staying too long and, the demands of being a services consulting, I can dip out and I'm never in any place long enough. But I'm always on and people have to look at me and I'm talking technical and I'm having conversations that I don't usually normally have with folks on a daily basis, and learning topics from A to Z, from Linux to OpenStack to Kubernetes. The gamut is so wide open, and I found that as a sweet spot, and I've been there since. And my little companies have blown up to be bought by Red Hat. So I've been at Red Hat physically almost about 10 years. But I was acquired in from the small open source company. And I now manage the sales engineers that do what I like to do in the field of cloud, Linux, and middleware. So that's what I do, and I can tell you, I don't see very many women. Um, I definitely can't even diversify the women when you see very little. Um, So I came here and hope to continue to participate, but to let you know that there are avenues out there for you women. You women are in high demand and continue, the thirst for learning, especially in this space. Um, takes a little thick skin, but it's almost as if you were sent to the moon. When you get into
Okay.
So I'm
You
I'm
said
gonna stop
take.
for a second, take some questions. I
You said take thick skin. What kind of thick skin is that?
oh OMG, it takes so if anybody has ever been courted by a software vendor, you usually come two, three, four, five people in. I'm usually the one that they look at that they think is going to bring the coffee or take the notes. And it's really interesting is I'm the one you're here to listen to. So when I stand up and when I get to that stand to the front of to the front of the room or on that whiteboard, you can't do it now because everybody's so uptight. But you used to be able to see the look of shock. So it takes a little thick skin, and sometimes you can say something, and if it could be reiterated by a peer, and that seems to be the right answer, but you just said that. Nah, so you got to have a little bit of that. Just, make sure you're just not hitting because your voice can get hidden.
Yeah, yeah. We were having a conversation about that today, and it's crazy that you say that you can say the same thing, and when somebody else delivers the same way, it is like they discover gold, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? Or if you're speaking to someone and everybody in the room notices that they are not listening to you, but yet they have nothing to say, but they'll have a sidebar conversation with you about it.
Hmm.
It's 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 strange in a people watching type of way, but sometimes you just want to like karate chop them in the throat, because it's just like you hire a person for this exhaustive list of skills because you have to be above average in order to get into the space. But when you're in the space, to have all your decisions questioned is quite frustrating, to say the least. But I'm glad that here at Women in Linux, we don't sugarcoat those type of episodes and scenarios. So,
Hmm.
anyone got any questions while she takes a brief break? You're on mute, Tam.
And you got to turn your camera on. So one of the questions is, um, I'm assuming this is supposed to be women. Do you think women are getting paid on par with their male counterparts? And that was from Trisha Wright.
Um, I think we're getting there. Let me tell you why. Um, this whole Black Lives Matter, everybody's lives matter. Um, if you haven't noticed, there's something called D&I that's popping up in every corporation. They are really looking at those stats and they're reconciling them. So if you're not getting close to pay, you're going to be. Because all eyes are on this diversity and inclusion stuff.
Oh,
Um, and now I can't, if we're for small mom pop, I can't really say, but the big 40 of the world, the big five of the world, the Googles, Amazons, all of them, they're coming to par. And that's because all eyes are on them.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear.
Can I make a statement in regards to that? My name's Renata, by the way. How you doing? I came a little late, but you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. In the early 2000s, I worked for Frito-Lay Company, and they were trying to beef up on their diversity.
Mhm.
And it was me and five other females that got hired. I was the only black female, but we were all really cool or whatever. And so one day, the HR manager happened to stop one of the girls, and she said, "You know, the only reason why you got hired is because you're a female." And whatever she told her, she almost had her in tears, had the HR manager in tears. And if that is the case, why would you even say something like that? Or why would you even bring that to her attention? And all of us were like, wow. I don't think, I probably was the last one who stayed, but pretty much all of us left the company. They weren't really big with diversity at all. And that was something that they were trying to ensure that they implemented at some point or whatever. But yeah, it was quite interesting, and I just couldn't believe that she even said that. But yeah, it does happen.
Happens a whole lot.
I
Uh,
think another question someone had was, I I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask if someone knows the basics of Python, like 101 and 102 and object oriented basics, how long does it take to become a professional coder?
how long does it take to become a professional coder? Um, I think if you know programming and programming structures and have the ability to do logic and interpret it into that language, and whatever language you know it in, you'll know it in another language. You know the concept of object oriented, you know encapsulation, you know inheritance, you know how to cast. That's going to be kind of similar no matter what programming language you're in. I consider that a programmer. If you're proficient in any of that, I consider you a programmer. I came through the ranks where, and I still don't even think there are really today many certifications for programming. You're a certified X for a programmer. It's not like there are for like infrastructure and ops and admin. Um, what I call a certified programmer is one that just understands those constructs and those ability. And I do see a little bit of the chat, and Kevin is right. It's understanding those concepts. I would consider you a programmer, a certified programmer. Hmm.
And that's what I talk about all the time is having understanding concepts over understanding tools.
That's correct.
Um, if you understand how networking works, networking in the cloud and the networking in the data center and the networking at home is networking. It don't change. It changes location, but it don't change, right? Firewalls, um, understanding least privilege, understanding those concepts are your to me are foundational skills, and that's why when we talk, I told everybody I didn't I'm not gonna stray from it. Linux, pick a cloud, AWS, Azure, OpenShift, whatever you want, and security. I mean, that's just the base of infrastructure, and you can take that and put that in that same concept in Google. If you're working at Google, if you're working at Amazon, if you're working at Red Hat, even if you're working for a mom and pop shop, it's just a base. So I do have some questions. So on in this on the sales engineering side, what's your focus? What's your group primarily focus on? The entire sales side, or is just a piece of it? Like you're focused on OpenStack and OpenShift, or cloud and altogether?
So we have two type of sales engineers. We have the account, and then we have the specialist. Both are technical. The account sales engineer has to know about every product. Don't have to go deep. I'm not expecting now. If it's Linux, foundationally Linux, but you don't have to have had 40, 20, 15 years of experience. Everyone knows what an operating system does and how it does it, and the concepts that people might be looking for in an operating system. Be able to understand that. But then just no cloud. Everybody knows, you know, a container. What's it good for? Then why we need orchestration of it, and then what are the barriers to that? Well, oh my gosh, Tamika should have said it's security. What kind of security? Know the concept of security. And then how middleware fits in. Don't have to know exactly the middleware products per se, have installed them and touched them, but you better know the 101 about them. So they know 101 about everything. And then I have the specialists. The specialists go 201, 301 deep on certain concepts. They might be oh my gosh, somebody's got to set up satellite server with Ansible on OpenShift. Let me bring in my specialist to help the account SA, because the account SA's number one focus is the customer, and interpreting tech to that customer. So those are the two I managed. I came from the specialist SA side of the house for the last 8 years. I now manage all the account SAs, from the side of the house. So it's more if you want to stay real, like I want to do service mesh. I want to know Istio, and I want to just be called in on Istio opportunities. Then you're a specialist SA. Um, but account essays, you better know what Istio is. If somebody said it, or somebody even said, I want to monitor and have policy on east-west traffic, you better know what that means. So
I'm gonna pause right there because I think we've been talking. I just want to ask one question. Does everybody know what a distributed system is first? Because you said that a while ago, and I meant to ask that.
No, no.
Okay. All
okay.
right. And then the next one is, does everyone understand what she means when she's talking about service mesh and Istio?
No again.
No, again, all right. That's what I need. We need that feedback. We need to know if you understand or not, because us telling you this don't make a difference. All right. So first question is, define what a distributed system is.
A distributed system is one where the components lie in different architectures. They kind of even lie in different infrastructures. Um, Almost like the concept of microservices that we have now, where microservices are, let's make something really small, have it do one thing, and have it do one thing right and well, and then we can deploy it anywhere. Kind of where microservices was going. Distributed systems have been around a long time because there are all these. I want to take I want Windows servers and Linux servers, and for them to have different parts of an application, and different pieces of this application are being serviced on different architecture. That's distributed. The opposite of distributed is centralized. Centralized is where the components live in one place and everybody has to go back to that one place to communicate and have, think of it as like the control center. All communication goes through that control center and back out. That's a centralized system. A distributed system is, nope, you don't have to go through the control system. We're going to just spread these pieces around. And I came up through the era where we were doing distributed applications on distributed systems, which means that we could take like a C++ application that was running on AS400 or a Linux box or Solaris box for that case, and it could communicate with application or something running on a Windows box that could be in Java, cross-platform, cross-language, things like that, kind of make up a distributed system. But when I was given the example of Istio, and I was saying that we have sales engineers that just want to focus on the technology And I said, for instance, the technology could be Istio. Istio is in this new world of cloud and containers, and orchestration of these containers, which is called Kubernetes. You're going to have you're going to have now platforms that have many modules running. And because, the cloud things burst, come up, come down at any given time, you really don't have the knowledge of, I'm going to lock it on an IP, and I'm going to, like the traditional methods that we have to lock and put security around these applications, because now they're little modules going up and down when they need to. We need a way for them to also communicate within each other. I need module A to be able to call module B, and I might need to have some policy between the conversations. This policy gatekeeper, which between different modules within the platform, they're already in the platform. The platform is taking care of people from the outside communicating to the inside. It's now when you're inside, how do modules communicate inside within each other? That's what Istio does. It puts like a communication mesh on internal microservices, or modules, as I'm calling them, and it allows you to put policy and monitor and manage that. So hopefully that was a long answer, but hopefully I got there.
No, you did. And I also put in inside the chat the link to Istio. Also looking up service mesh and sidecar proxy.
Mhm.
Also, one of the big things, if you've seen Terraform, I know you've seen console. When we talk about policy as code, that gets into that, and as well as when we're talking about what is that? How do we define that, right? If you're looking at console, when she was talking about, say, a web server should only talk to this database inside of console, it's called intentions. In other words, I intentionally set you up to be able to talk to this database, and only you can talk to this database from this particular from this particular web server. So again, when we're talking about these distributed systems, you have to think. I give you the best prime example of the distributed system that people probably are using now is Clubhouse. Clubhouse is just one example, but even take it one step further, all the gaming consoles, all the gaming that's going on, most of that, a lot of people are in AWS. So and I guess the big one is Netflix. So just when you're thinking about what does that look like, just think about your mom who may be in New York, and your grandmother may be in Texas. They're probably not hitting the same servers when they're looking at Netflix. So just keep that in mind, like how fast do you want to pull content to you in that particular region at that particular time. So just keep that in mind. And somebody did have a question. Question was, what is a Linux cybersecurity? I guess that's a cert, and how do I prepare to start my career in that?
Yeah, good question. So I do believe there's a Linux cyber security cert. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't seen that. It's not a requirement for my team, RHC, RHCSA. So I'm not sure about this cybersecurity, but how I can just tell you how you would prepare for this though. You can The one thing about Linux is all the things that we kind of are talking about in today's architectures, a Linux background will help you understand it more. Um, the Linux foundations are being reused, recycled, and they are powering this whole cloud revolution. So it is great to have just the foundations of that. So if you take any of the Linux intro classes and then go, which I take the basic one, the system admin, and then take the next level up. That's how you can start. At least if you want to say I want to get into the cybersecurity, because there's a lot of security aspects in the second layer Linux test admin course. But the Tamika's putting in there, learn SE Linux, learn compliance. First, just take back up a second, and before you even apply it to a technology, understand what the 7 layers of security are. So then you can say, okay, so how does my operating system do this? And then you'll learn like, okay, oh, they use namespaces. Oh, they use something called SC Linux. But understand what when someone says, what's your denial of attack service? Know these terms. So basically just learn the 7 to 10 aspects of security, and then apply them to a technology. And then you're on your way.
Anybody else? All right. The other piece to that is understanding what is your blast radius when you're talking about security. Um, we always look at, how can we minimize our blast radius, meaning how can we limit a fallout from spreading out. So another thing to look at, as she was saying, is container security. That is super huge, especially when we're talking about Kubernetes. The other one is network security inside of Kubernetes, not just with ITCO and service mesh, but inside of Kubernetes, you can have different networking pieces, or different, I should say, different networking containers. So one of the ones that always comes up is called Canal, and the other one is called Flannel. And I'm gonna post those links inside of the chat so you know what I'm talking about. Canal sounds just like it does, and the other one is Calico. So I'm gonna post it. It's a project that includes both of those. Um, and the reason why that's important is because now you're getting into security inside the Kubernetes cluster itself. So I don't know if people are familiar with people rooting out of their containers and getting onto the systems. And now you have inside, you can have 5 different applications running by 5 different groups, and that one group gets hacked and somebody breaks out of their container. Now they start attacking your application and getting access to other applications inside of that Kubernetes cluster. So that's where that comes in at. Did that make sense to everyone? And what we just talked about? You can put a 1 or 2 in the chat. Cool. All right. So my next question is this. My next question is, on the sales engineering side, what is the path? What does that career track look like on the sales engineering side?
So normal, a couple of tracks. Typically, we services a consultant will move over to a sales engineer that's ready to leave the road warrior life and decrease it. Not sales engineering, we travel, but we don't travel as much as consultants and things like that. We have a pretty defined path, and we never stay too long. So we usually get consultants. We usually get folks that come from like system integrators. A lot of GD, IT, Deloitte, Accenture, Booz Allen, those folks come over. So we have a lot of those. We do have a lot of folks that are actual customers of of products. So a lot of software vendors will actually recruit some of their customers because you kind of know firsthand the product and you've got experience with the sales team. You know how they operate. It's kind of usually that comes over. And then lastly, just they're technical and they have good soft skills. What makes the sales engineer a unique role is because their soft skills are as great as their technical skills. We all know geeks that can't talk or express themselves or that are introverts except when it comes to the keyboard. So the sales engineer has that unique skill of having soft skills that can present, that can listen, that can work a crowd, that can do a large conference, a Java one, and things like that, and yet come back and relate what they heard in the tech and try to architect solution. Like I think I heard that if they could just use satellite, they could diminish. We're losing, thousands of dollars on all these costs of subscriptions or whatever when satellite, or they're just trying to automate these processes. You know what? I think I heard they need a GitOps solution, and they could probably do that with Ansible. Just things like that. You got to be able to apply technology to a problem. So hopefully that answered it.
It did. Does that make sense for everybody? And Dee, if you could post the satellite server inside the chat, so I don't think everyone knows what that is. I've mentioned it before a couple of times, but it may not be that obvious.
Mm-hmm. And no offense to the men that might be on this call, I think women are so much better at this.
It's shots fired.
Well, I mean, just look at it. Our reasoning, our ability to solve a problem. We'll think about it a little more. I think we do it well, but just the listening part. Our women sales engineers, which aren't that many, they're good, and that's
You know
across
what
the
she said?
industry.
She said it's not that many. So let me ask this because I've gotten this question a lot. Um, in the past 3 years, how many women sales engineer have you seen?
Oh, gee. I'm gonna go outside of Red Hat and let me just say in general. I've probably in my lifetime, how about that? In my lifetime, I'm gonna go in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, I've met 20. And this is across IT industry. I've met more in the last 2 years than I have previously in 5. And 10 years ago, it was maybe one per Fortune 100. The Fortune 100. It was probably one per company. And yes, I've always been the only one of color. Although I see that a little more opening up. So what's so interesting about a sales engineer role is you do travel. We wean out of these type of roles as we get to a certain age because we take on other responsibilities. Um, so rarely do you see women with their bags packed. Well, I gotta go because I've got a fire burning here at in San Diego at my customer site. I gotta be there to fix that. We're not that agile, or used to not to be that agile. So when it got to a certain point, women were we wean ourselves out of these careers for whatever reasons. Mm-hmm.
And that's another note. On the consultant side of Red Hat, I think it's 100% travel.
Oh yeah, it's more. It's way more. It's I say 45 to 50 pre-COVID times on my team, and services you services across the board is probably 80% in the
Yep.
industry right now. Mm.
Yep. So that when we had I just Bobby Akai Akai Acha was on.
Hmm.
He's an architect
Yep, Bobby
for
Archer.
yep for open shift open stack, and he was talking about he racked up like 1,000,000 points on his on his card. He's like, man, I'm out of that life now. I'm over that.
Well, COVID made you think hard. And this again will change. COVID has some long lasting effect. It'll change the way we think about these positions. My team is doing 90% of their job, 0% in person. Got to think about that.
Yep. So I do have a question about that. Let's I don't know. Let's make up a company. We got a problem. What is it typically like to pull in a group of people on a project? Like what are we doing day one on an engagement with a customer that wants to say, hey, I have this problem, help me solve it. What are the number one steps that your salespeople are implementing, and I guess as a collective implementing? You don't have to go into details, but just a general idea.
So if a customer calls and they would call their account team, which consists of a salesperson and someone on my team, the technical person that works hand in hand with that salesperson. So the customer will call one of those two, hopefully, and say, "I have a problem." And let's just say we're Linux here, so let's just say they really can't get SE Linux right, or they tried to add the new subscription manager capability and can't get it. Or they were trying to use some of the developer tooling inside of RHEL, like the container capability, like Podman, and nothing is just working for them. Okay, so the salesperson and the sales engineer will look at each other, and the first thing that the salesperson will say is, "Hey, sales engineer, can you do this? Is this beyond your capability, or do you have enough knowledge?" That my sales engineer can either pre-COVID go there, sit with them for a day or two, whiteboard, talk about, discuss, teach, but help their issues. What we don't do is play support or services. We don't play support when people are like, look, I typed in this command and I got this error code and it blue screen to death, or where you truly have a service issue. Um, and we don't a support issue, and we don't play services, whereas you've got this 17 requirements and you want somebody to just come there and do them. But now back to, there is an issue. My team, and you don't pay for my team is pre-sales. They can either work with the customer, direct issue, or they can say, oh, I spent the day, 2 days working on an example. I got it working. Let me show you. Or they can call the specialist team and say, hey, can you work with me? Then work with them, and maybe we can see the right of their wrongs that's stopping them. But my team is the technical quarterback. We'll decide what to do next, whether they handle it or they bring in someone to handle it. So that's how it would flow. But my team doesn't leave it alone. My team has this because the number one goal for the team is the customer. They got to make sure that however it gets to completion, it gets to completion.
And thank you for that. And Mike D said, I think you're talking about just a sales path in general, Mike. I may be wrong, but you were saying that pro services, SE, sales engineer manager, or product manager, or account rep in terms of the sales path.
Mm-hmm. Now, services can go first if you already have a services relationship or services already on the ground. But if services, you don't have a services relationship or services isn't on the ground, you just have some red hat stuff and it's not working for you. That you call your sales engineer.
And I
Or
guess I also like, so the sales engineer, what's the next thing about the sales engineer? Can you become manager and then?
so sales engineering, after sales engineering, you can go up sales engineering managers. Now there's certain levels too. We just like regular engineering, we have staff, we have principal, we have senior principal, we have distinguished. And some of the blogs you read on and the Red Hat website are written by SEs. Some of the SEs become SMEs and become part of larger SME projects, and they set the direction of products. So there is a whole career path in sales engineering, but then some of them go to the BU, some of them go to product engineering and or product marketing. Some of them turn into account execs. There's two things. They're driven by incentive and commission, and you can't get no bigger drive than being an account exec. They're like waitresses, low pay, high tips, low pay, high commission. So some go there. They think they could go all the way in. They're all the way in with sales. So several different paths.
Got you. On your team, are you requiring security clearances?
For my security clearances are nice, not required, only for my intelligence community.
Got you. I know that would probably be a question somebody has. Now on the sales side, I heard you mention diagramming. I've been in interviews before where they want you to come in, like I had a take home I had to do, and the take home was like, hey, here's the problem, create a presentation for it and be ready to present in front of 5 people as part of the interview process. And and those 5 people are going to critique that presentation. I've also been in a process where they'll send you 4 emails and you have to respond to those emails as part of the interview process. And they want to see your writing style, and they want to see how you respond to the customer, engage with the customer. Do
Wow,
you get that email? I mean, in your interview process,
that
you
that's pretty intense. Well, every I can't say there's a standardized process. Um, because services might do a little different than what we might do on the sales engineering side because we're actually in two different branches. But no, I don't do all that. That's a little intense for me too. But we do try to gauge, especially in sales engineering, because soft skills is half the battle. So I do interviews and I do ask people to present something, but I let it be their topic of choice. It could be a hobby. I had somebody talk about juggling. I've had somebody talk about Kubernetes, but present an ideal or a concept to me and try to convey it. Get me excited about it, teach me something, whatever. But I don't give the topic, I don't give homework in advance. It's just 30 minutes, and hopefully you pick something that you're comfortable and knowledgeable in. I'm just trying to gauge. Do you feel how do you present? Do you feel comfortable? Can I hear you? Is you bad? That kind of stuff. Um, and so yeah, and usually there's 3 or 4 people in that room, but I don't do the email. No, and usually when you get to that portion, that's the last thing. You've had a couple of interviews with 1 or 2 folks, and the last thing is your presentation of your topic. Can't hear you.
I know I asked my questions. I don't want to monopolize this time, so I'm going to turn it over and make sure everybody got their questions answered. Let me know if you have some. If you want to blurt it out, that's fine. Does anyone have any questions? Going once. Oh, there's one. How could one merge a career in beauty and technology? 15 years of beauty industry sales, attending CompTIA, plus training. I don't know which CompTIA you're attending. I'm assuming A plus, maybe. Training next week. I want to get in the technology industry, but my background is super domestic. I'm gonna take a stab, and Michelle, I'm gonna let you take a stab. So what I'm gonna say is, I think you're looking at it all wrong. I think you're not looking at the skills that you already have. In other words, interacting with people, listening to people, providing a solution, and then also understanding what the problem is. Because a lot of times people don't understand what the problem is. So those are things that I pull out from just being like the beauty side that works in technology. And I'll let Michelle go even deeper if she wants to.
Yeah, no, you that was actually perfect. You flip this script. Start talking about how you had to juggle supply and demand. Come on, beauty is the most rigorous, intensive industry out there. Everybody want their stuff now. Ain't nobody ever on time. You got barometers. So you're trying to regulate. You're balancing supply and demand. You're trying to keep beauty and technology. So you had some technology. So you're trying to keep technologically advanced in this industry. All of those are sentences and words that'll get you further than I'm change. You made it sound like you're retooling and you're starting from the bottom. Now you're here. You're not retooling. You're just taking all of that experience from what Tamika said, what I said, and you're applying it now to IT. Um, and it could be in sales and IT. You can go ahead and get the CompTIA training, and then maybe look at project management, because beauty and technology is a lot of project management in that. So find the commonalities and then just hone in on those. And
Yep.
there's got to be a lot.
Yep. And the other piece that I would recommend too, that people don't talk about often is coaching as well too. There are a lot of agile coaches out there.
Mhm.
So you got to look at it from a technology perspective. I would also be looking at an agile coach that merges with technology, and agile coaching goes across multiple industries. And when I say multiple industries, I mean from cars to satellites to radio to you name it. So just look at it from that perspective. All right, yeah. Another question is, do you have any recommended paths to blend cloud and audio or media, file streaming and workflows?
Hmm. That's a good one. Yeah, nothing is jumping out at me. Cloud and audio and media. Uh,
Yeah, the one I had came up with before, I did an interview with a podcasting company. Um, they were big on Kubernetes and podcasting. So I would I have to go back to my email and find them, but on the technical side, they were looking for someone to understand how the and you're talking about radio, I mean audio. You already really to me you already had an answer. Clubhouse. That's what Clubhouse is. In fact, I posted a job inside of the Slack group for a job at Clubhouse. They're looking for a DevSecOps person. So when you're talking about audio, Clubhouse is in need of DevSecOps people. In fact, I think that person posted 15 positions over there for a DevSecOps person to help them scale and monitor their system. So Clubhouse is one answer. But there's also people that are coming out with other alternatives to Clubhouse as well too. So, and I see AWS Kinesis up there as well too. So that's already married because I look at Clubhouse as radio broadcasting to me. So that's how that's how I look at it.
um, Also, something since you said blend, a commonality is storage. Um, there's a lot of storage solutions to blend audio or media files into the cloud. So you might want to look at, what kind of different storages out there, bucket storage, object storage. So, um, that's another way to get in to blend those two kind of technologies together.
Yep.
My question
And
is this, or more no, more so your thoughts. This is a predominantly women's group, and so as women, we already know 9 times out of 10 we're in our own way when it comes to overthinking things. I know Tamika, she is a fan of the mind map. I am a fan for just like pros and cons lists. For many people that are taking their 15, 10, 20 years worth of experience and want to come over to tech, how do you suggest the best way to kind of map the two? Because I think people put tech over in a hemisphere that's unobtainable. And like you said already, it's just basically how do you translate your skills into this business? How do you suggest excuse me, they go about that?
I'm trying to surmise your question. How do they translate their skills into tech from real world? Um, well, the good thing is, show our age a little bit. I think the people under 30 are gonna have an easy time doing that because everything they do and touch is tech.
Mhm.
Every single thing. So they're gonna have 25 and younger going to have such an easy time conveying that they can.
But they don't. They're not. I mean, just by our feedback that we get here, they're not. And I can tell by the question, it's just like, you're gonna get like, how do you mix these three things and then you have a career in tech? And then this becomes a technical skill is problem solving, like in logic and things of those nature. Like how do you wrap your mind around like, okay, this is what I do and these are the jobs I can translate these skills?
It's kind of a hard one, but again, you got to translate it. So in the IT world, there's IT and then there's all the peripherals around IT.
Mhm.
So let's just say you never touch tech. No, I'm in beauty. I've actually never touched tech. Again, look at the things that you might have been able to balance supply and demand. You might have been able to increase your clientele base. That's marketing. That might be bookkeeping. These are all peripherals that IT companies still have. They're just doing it to a technical product. Get yourself in that door in any of these open windows into this corporation. Translating your skills. If you're not technical and you're trying to break in, show that you can solve a problem. The problem just might be in HR, human retention. It might be in marketing, like I said. It might be in numbers. It might be in project management. All of these peripherals, these windows into an IT company that will probably help train you and help give you more tech background once you're in, if you want to do that. So that would be my suggestion if you have no tech background and you're really trying to translate yourself into a tech. Get in the door with what you got.
Yep. And the other part of that is get in the door with contacts too, right?
Oh,
We
that's
put I put in the chat, in case people don't know, when I say we have a POC, that doesn't mean we have a people of color for this. That means that I have a point of contact for this. And that means that I've already vetted them or they've already reached out. So all you got to do is let me know that you're interested, and then I can you can exchange emails or however whatever the method of communication should be. So that's the other way. The other one is a lot of people are a fan of you got to know somebody on the inside. I'm a fan of just apply, because just because that you may know that person on the inside don't mean they like them on the inside, and it don't mean they actually pass your information along. So I do two things. I get in the system and I use my contacts. I'm just being honest. Not everybody is your friend, so just you have to be looking out for self. That's all I'm saying. Um, And then we do have another question is, well, it says for someone that doesn't have pre-sales experience, mostly post-sales experience, how can you stand out in an interview and convince a company to take a chance on them?
So you have to convince them that your post sales experience was still a lot of customer engagement and listening to the customer and making sure that your solutions were on point. Those are the things we look for in pre-sales. So when people think that most folks are post sales, they're just heads down and they're just doing they're doing what the statement of work told them to do and no more or less. No, you tell them. I spent most of my time whiteboarding it. Every day I would come in and I'd whiteboard what we're going to do this week or what we're going to do today, so that they understood the architecture and what was going on. I did explaining. That shows your skills. That shows your communication skills. That shows that you can convince them. You can hold that crowd. Hopefully it shows that they liked you too, that you stayed there long. And you show that you were gathering tidbits that helped you to report back up the chain that there might be an opportunity for XYZ, because I've been talking to them and they've been talking about they're trying to solve this problem. So you're listening for new avenues, for new opportunities. That's how you convince that company that I wasn't post sales. I'm more than post sales. I'm pre sales too, and I can do that.
So, and the other thing I was just thinking about, and you all let me know, and Michelle, let me know if we eating up your time on a tonight. We don't want to eat up your time.
Go ahead,
You
go ahead. I'm enjoying it.
Okay. So I do have a question. What do you do with someone who has I'm gonna throw myself out there. I'm gonna throw my name out there. Tamika's putting in her application. She's been in tech, you know, these years or whatever, and she's coming in to do a sales engineering position. What are you looking for at that point? Like, are you looking, and she's never had sales experience, right? Per se, right?
Uh-huh.
And she hasn't had any sales. She hasn't sold $15 million worth of Red Hat products,
Uh-huh.
right? What are you, how do you gauge someone like that? Like, because there's a lot of crisscross in terms of technical people, programmers that are coming in or want to come in, but they don't have that sales side, that sales engineering side per se.
I you know, when I look, I interview, I'm gauging, and that this is a hard one. Does that person have the ability to be a trusted advisor? And you know, some of it's a hunch. Some of it, you know, is ooh, they seem to know everybody in this company, in this agency. They got credibility. They might be able to do it. They look like they've sold themselves. It, whether you, I'm looking to see if you can sell yourself. If you can sell yourself, then you can sell something else. And again, sales engineering, we're not writing the paper and here's four tires and it's $60 and here's your quote. We don't do that. We explain what the value of those tires are, why your car needs those tires, and where we're going in respect to those tires in the future. So you can sell that. So if you can sell yourself, that's part of the first thing. Some people cannot even sell themselves, believe it or not. And actually it's not it's an acquired skill. So that's kind of how it is. So not necessarily you don't have to be a salesperson, nor have to sell anything before. Um, Gauging, have you been a trusted advisor to any corporation before, any group, any agency, anything? Do you speak? You got credibility? Did you come out of a shop anywhere that you were credible? Those type of things, because those are the characteristics that make a good sales engineer. And
Got
again, we don't pitch numbers. We'll never come in and say, "Oh, you need 8 of these for $50,000." We don't do that. That's why we have a salesperson.
got you. Mike, I think you got a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about, even from just getting past the gatekeeper, the recruiter. Um, what are some things or maybe some tips you would recommend just getting past the gatekeeper or the recruiter, if you don't have sales experience? Because a lot of times what I'll see is you get rejected, shortly after you submit it because they don't see the word sales. Although you've had experience, in a customer facing environment, whether that be consulting or a post sales professional services type of role. um, Sometimes I see right off the bat, not even, consideration because they don't see that sales in there. And just wanted to see if there's anything that we should add to our resume that to kind of illustrate that or talk to those strengths, and or anything that you think from a different point of view that may help us get past the gatekeeper to get a chance to get that initial interview.
Mhm. So two things. The first thing is put somewhere in your um you know how you have what's it that you have at the top you have just your brief TLDR about you at the top of the resume. Put on there that that you've gained, uh, if you have, at your last company or you're wherever you're doing, just somehow say um you gained trusted advisor by articulating um, articulating results or articulating the problems, and attaching solutions to them or something like that. Put that at the very top. So if they don't see sales, they do at least see that you have that ability to articulate solutions, and you've conveyed this information positively to someone and it changed their position. That's what you need to try to get across somewhere at the top. But my second point is apply to those positions that your resume might be a shoe-in. And let me just tell you why. Apply to that if you don't have sales and you can't get past the gatekeeper and they keep thinking you're going to services. When they call you, you just start saying things like, I really was interested in sales engineering, things like that, because we pass resumes all the time. If you're a pleasant person, you got in and I interview with you, but after, everything looked good, but then I started hearing from you, and let's say in reverse, that you really want to work at companies and be hands on and stay there for a couple of weeks or so and solve their problem. You like being hands on. I might say, you know what? I'm going to pass you the services because they stay 3, 4, 5 weeks at a time creating solutions you can put your name on. And we'll pass them. So get in how you get in.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, we have a question. The question was, how important is it to be strong in Linux at the start? I have tons of experience in the areas of IT at the engineering level, but limited to Linux. And that's from Rico.
So Rico, I can just say for my company, Linux is important, but Linux is not a requirement these days because there's so much. You come in with cloud, you can come in with we're looking right now. You can come in just knowing how to do a DevSecOps pipeline, and boom, we got a position for you. They don't have nothing to do with Linux. So it is, it is preferred but not required. Again, I came from the middleware world. I tell people now I know 16 Linux commands, enough to get my code written, developed, compiled, and out the door. This OpenShift is making me learn way more than I ever did about Linux. So I'm in the door, and so
Gotcha. Come on now. I know you know it. Let me see. CD, LS.
CDLS. That's, oh boy, don't be going too much far now. Shoot, all the negative LS. Yeah, buddy. Stat, stat. Where is the service? That's about. I can do a whole lot with those 5 commands.
Whole lot. That's why I tell people all the time. I was like, just get your core commands down. Understand how to maneuver around, where to find stuff. Use the man pages is your friend.
Oh, is it?
So
Mhm.
somebody asked, they asked if we haven't discussed what is the starting salary range.
Oh,
Oh,
that kind of varies depending on your territory. Like I have Air Force, Army, Navy, then we have civilian agencies, then we have state and local. It depends on your territory and what you cover. But I will tell you, it probably sales probably pays more than services. Um, the interesting part about services is you rack up a lot because you never live anywhere. You never have expenses. But sales engineers do get paid more. And right now, I the, don't know too many that aren't six figured up um, at all. Not in this time and age right now. Again, unicorns. Sales engineers are unicorns. Women sales engineers are, phew, boy, rare unicorns. Because you got to like to talk to people. You got to have good soft skills. and your tech's got to be great. And you got to have a thirst to learn more. Darn it, if I didn't learn a bunch of stuff just today that I'm just like we're sitting here asking you, do you know these words? And we're like explaining them. That happens at least once or twice a day. And to me, that's great because I'm learning something. I just learned something. I love it. So yeah,
That,
gotta have that. Gotta have
that
that
means you learned a
mentality.
lot about Platform One and Party Bus.
That is correct.
So that means I know what that means.
Mm,
Uh, and one last final question from me. Um, how can we help you? How can we help you get more? I don't want to call it the pipeline because pressure bust pipes.
mm.
I want to say, how can we get more people in front of you with the proper skills that you're looking for?
Uh, um, so we need more. I don't care how we get into it. I don't care if we come in through sales engineer, through services, through trainers. We need more women tech, especially around this Linux. And again, in this I see a lot in this cloud space. But they start weaning off when I start talking about software defined networking and just stuff like that. You kind of lose them. They were at the service catalog. They were at the UI building or something. Start getting deep, we lose them. So I need to know that women are still studying software, still studying networking. That we're still we still are studying security. So whoever asked the security question, we need to keep addressing that. And I can, um, I help you, you help me. I'll come on here and I'll address topics and bring slides and find code snippets. But we got to keep training up a group of women and men, um, that frankly are that know these topics, that are deeper than surface and can hold their own. And we're not.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because I mean, yeah, we spoke earlier. I've been Red Hat forever, learning Red Hat, and so the whole thing is uh having consultants come in, or even sales engineer coming in. It's rare. Um, it's just rare. It's just what it is. And I know a lot of people like, well, Red Hat is dying, and Red Hat is not going to be around, and blah blah blah. And I hear that, and I just don't see it. Not with how the GOV is paying for uh, these new technologies coming out and trying to make these migrations. I ain't seeing that. So um, I've been fortunate enough for myself. I've been running with Linux since 2000, so here we are. So you can take that however you want to. I may be a dinosaur, but I ain't hungry. So,
Nah,
so
that's cute. Linux isn't whether it's Red Hat or anything. I'm taking my Red Hat off. Um, I got job security. I'm not even worried about it. And it would be nice to get a lot of people where I am. And I only say that not because I'm smart and bright. That's because technology is running the world.